All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for your patience with us this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. And I want to start off by acknowledging that here at the UBC Learning Circle, we are really privileged to be located in the territory, the unceded ancestral territory of the Musqueam people. And it's an honor to be in this space and to be able to share and learn from one another. So thank you all for joining us. We have a couple sites joining us on video conference, and we have 29 people joining us on webinar today. So thank you. Please feel free to use the chat box in the webinar to introduce yourself and where you're from. And I also want to remind everyone today that sometimes our subject matter here on the Learning Circle can be sensitive or triggering. And so we really encourage you to take the space that you need today to take care of yourself, find someone to talk to if need be, whether that's an elder or a friend or a family member or a counselor. But we really want to make sure that everyone joining us today has a support network in place and takes the time for self-care as needed. So I'm Miranda Kelly. I'm the education coordinator with the UBC Learning Circle, and it's my honor to be hosting this session today. Mm-hmm. I'm Stalo from Sewali First Nation, and this Learning Circle today is part 2 with Kat Norris. So Kat joined us back in March with the first part of her story, Without Reservation, a survivor story. And so today we wanted to follow up with Kat because she has so much more wisdom and a lovely story to share with us today of her healing journey as a survivor of the Cooper Island Residential School, and also for us to learn from her experiences as a mother and a grandmother and a cultural educator. So without any further ado, I want to welcome you, Kat. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us.
Yeah, I'm so happy to come back today. I was very honored to get the email and that you guys wanted me to come back. I'm always really surprised, like when I do my talks, I always say that I'm someone who was very silent and didn't have a voice until I started to go through my healing journey. And but I wanted to start by introducing Davina. You guys introducing yourselves. I'm not sure you can see them, but you can hear them. Can you hear them?
I'm Davina, and I'm the program coordinator at the UBC Learning Circle, and I do the IT stuff here, setting things up for the webinars.
And I'm Javier. I'm a student here and helping out Davina.
Awesome. So did you guys have any questions for me from the last time, maybe, that you wanted to ask? Yeah, so I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Kat Norris, and my Indian name is Zukamalwat. And my grandmother actually was born in Layaxon, one of the Gulf Islands, and a lot of people asked me what her name meant, but that was just her name. And she was born in Layaxon and was married into Musqueam, so we have a lot of relatives in Musqueam. So I just wanted to raise my hands up to everyone out there, all of you that are listening, and my family and friends out there, and people from many territories. I wanted to honor you as well, because we all share a lot of the same stories and experiences. And a lot of us are intergenerational survivors of our elders and our grand elders, our parents that went to residential school, or that experienced that type of life because of their experience. So I wanted to raise my hands up to you as well. I can see someone out there. Can you wave? Oh yeah, hello. So I wanted to welcome you. It's good to see you. And I always share that my experiences aren't much different than a lot of my people, and a lot of our people that are on the street, and a lot of our people that are struggling. I share the same story, but I'm just so thankful that I had a strong mother, and that the people that I met in my life were able to help me and support me. But more importantly, that I listened, that's a big part of our teachings is to listen. So I attended Keeper Island Residential School along with my brothers and a lot of relatives that we met at the school. And Keeper Island was known as the Alcatraz of the residential schools. And I think there have been like videos a lot of people have seen. And that school is just one of so many schools all across Turtle Island that were created to impact our people. And it's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that these schools were created with intent. Because the first line of genocide was the taking of our lands. But the second was the reservation system. And for our non-Indigenous people, I really need you to know that the reservations that our people live on are not free land for our people. Because I heard this even at Langara College. What about the free land that your people get? Well, the reservations were created to keep our people in one spot to protect the settlers and the governing bodies that governed our lands. And on those reservations, through the Indian Act, our people were not allowed to get a lawyer. They were not allowed to start businesses. There were so many rules that we cannot do. But with the reservation system, our leaders and our elders and our spokespeople still spoke out for our land. So we, because our lands surrounding the reservations were lands that our people lived on. All the beautiful bays that you see, all the beautiful territories that you see were homes for our people. They call our people nomadic, but what it is was that our people moved from different locations depending on the season. And, in fishing season, we would live, by the bays. And, during hunting season, our people would just move around so that we could not use up, that little bit of land that our people used to either hunt on or gather or fish. And there are a lot of lands that our people used to do ceremonies, including our Salish people. We had sacred areas where our people would go pick medicines or do our ceremonies, the same as in any other nation on Turtle Island, including the people from the eastern, what are now called provinces, and our people down south. We had sacred areas. And so that was one of the areas that our people, asked if we could have those lands and still continue to use those lands. But a big part of reservations was, to sell off and give away all of the land so that this whole territory could look the way it is now. Separated into provinces, into 2 different countries. There's a lot of background, other reasons why this happened, not just because of, the politics between England and Canada and France and the United States. And it was to control our people. So I just wanted to sort of share a little bit about that, my own a little bit of knowledge around that. I'm not an expert by any means, but all I want to share is that what happened with our people happened with intent. It was very magnificently planned out. And, so Keeper Island Residential School, the same as many other schools, we've lost a lot of people. We continue to lose a lot of our people today. And I see that with our next generation. The impact continues, and it's something that really, impacts me as a grandmother and a mother. But the reason why I started to get help for myself was because I started to have panic attacks, and I was in my 20s, and my son was quite young. And I'm not sure if anyone else out there ever experienced panic attacks, but they're not very fun, And I finally went to my doctor because I thought there was something wrong, with my brain. I thought there was something wrong with me, And she was the one who told me that what I was experiencing was panic attacks. And I'd had about 4 of them, before I finally went to go see her, because this is back in the day when you didn't know much about panic attacks. And, so I was very thankful to learn about that. And I started seeking counsel. Like I mentioned in the last, my last session, it took 3 counselors before I found the right one. The first one, I thought, I can't tell her, what I need to tell her, because she was so soft-spoken. And the second one that I found, we ended up sharing similar stories, so it turned into, my conversation and the counselor's conversation about their experience. But that wasn't really helpful to me. So the third counselor was just perfect. She was listened, and she organized my thoughts for me, and she broke it down. And I really liked that, so we worked on, she didn't even work on like the trauma, but just worked on, my emotions and my feelings and how I saw things. So I think it's really important for everyone to, I mentioned it in the last session, but it's really important for those that are just listening, to really help yourself and help the people that you care for, encourage them to talk and get things out, because our people are notorious for not talking and not sharing. And who do you talk to? And how do I even start talking? Because that was so terrifying. It was so terrifying. Like, once I start talking, I'm going to have to look at all of these things that happened to me, all of my experiences, And I didn't really know what even, like, I could see, like, I can remember certain experiences, but there was so much else that I didn't know. I could just feel it in my body. And, so when I start talking, because just to let everyone know, when you first start looking for a therapist or a counselor, you have to have an orientation session where you have to, it's quite long, a lot of questions, and they want to know the things that happened to you. And sometimes, like with the Haywood Healing Circle, for example, which is no longer in existence, but they were awesome. They want to know if you can tell them who, even if they had passed, because it's important to name that, but that's also part of why a lot of our people are afraid to get help in their own communities, because they have to name, if you have to name the person. But it's something that you don't have to do. But I realized the importance of that, because as you're growing, you don't put a name to these people that hurt you as a child. But when I did that, it was kind of like I let loose a little bit. I released a little bit more. And so that process is scary. And then you'll have to do it again when you find a new therapist, but they want to know. They have to know, like, how are they going to help you if they don't know what that history is? Then they'll know where they need to start, The same thing for people that go to treatment. You have to answer a lot of questions, and because they want to know your story, and they want to know how they can help you. Because if they don't know your story, they don't know how they can help you. So that's one of the things I like to let people know, because it's always a surprise for a lot of people that I've worked with, that they have to answer all these questions, and it, it kind of triggers them a little bit. So it's all in how you do it, so you have to be prepared, when you start your own healing journey, So, are there any questions on that? And also, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask a question online. And can we hear anyone that's...
For webinar, they have to type in their comments or questions. For video conference, if you have any comments or questions, you can take yourself off of mute and we'll be able to hear.
Yeah, you can take yourself off of mute. And I would also like it not to be only about me, but if you have something to share, introduce yourself on webinar. Can you do that right now? You can take yourself off of mute. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm from the Helsing Nation. I work for the Helsing Health Center here, and I'm the community telemedicine coordinator. We had a few people here, but they had to leave due to, I guess, other events happening and other meetings. But it's really nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, it's a.
Yes, we are from the Nisga'a Nation. Mary Lou McKay and Karen McKay. Both of our mothers were survivors of residential school and fathers. And the story that you're telling, we missed the first part of the presentation, but just what you're saying today relates to a lot of what we heard from our mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother is gone now, but she had the panic attacks, and throughout her years had dealt with it in different ways. Rather than to have gone for counseling, she was afraid to tell her story. So it's really nice to hear your words today.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that fear is part of why a lot of our people use, and historically have used alcohol, to hide that. Because, especially for our grandparents, that's who I get really emotional for. Because they didn't know, they couldn't speak the language. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know why they were in this place. And it's a big part of my family's experiences, understanding. The more we were lucky that we learned about, the reasons why our people were impacted, and ironically, I learned that through the American Indian movement, about the genocide of our people, because so just a little background, I, was born, and lived on one of the Gulf Islands when I was a baby, and my grandfather was very hardworking. My grandfather, he did the ceremonies for me, so it's something I like to share to remind our grandparents, to find out what those ceremonies are for your grandchildren, and even for your grown children, you can still do it. And one of the things he used to do was he used to lift me up. The first snow, my mother ran out like, "What are you doing?" She was really, like, "What are you doing?" Because my grandfather was lifting up in the snow. And he touched me down to the snow 4 times, and he was praying. And his prayer in the language was, like thanking the Creator for this change in snow, in seasons. Thank you for the gift of the snow. And I ask you, Creator, to watch over my grandchild. Watch over my grandchild. Touch the snow. And protect her, always watch over her. And always show her the way home. And so the first big wind, when they went out fishing, and the first big rain, and he did those ceremonies for me, so I did that for my own, And how, when we talk about oral history, that was one of the things that my mom used to always talk to me about. I'm like, "Mom, you told me that already." I'm like 16, 18, 20 something. "Mom, you told me that already." And she goes, "Don't say that, you just listen. One of these days, it doesn't mean anything now, but one of these days you're going to know what to do." So that was one of the things, that when my son was 15 months old, I'm like, "Oh yeah, do these ceremonies." So you can do it with like metal, you can do it with wood. And when one night my sister and I we were walking home, we'd gone out to a dance, and my mom, my sister, and I, and we were walking up the hill. We lived on Union Street in Burnaby, and it started to rain, and the wind was really blowing us back, and my sister and I were complaining about our hair. We're like, "Oh man, it's getting my hair wet." And my mom stopped and she said, "Don't worry about it. It's the first big wind. Lift up, put out your hands, put your arms out." And we were like, looking at her like, she, like, what's wrong with her? Like very urban, right? No, put your arms out and breathe it in. You had to breathe in the strength, she said. And, so we did it. So now whenever the first big wind, I did it by myself once. I felt kind of weird. I'm looking around like, is anybody watching? But I had to do it. It was the first whoosh, big wind. So I did it. I had my Safeway bag in one arm. And I put my arm up and I said a prayer, thank you and watch over me. Then I realized the wind, it touches everybody. It goes around. And so I said, I sent a prayer out to my family and my loved ones, and I'm sending a prayer. Let it touch anybody that needs a prayer right now, because I realize the wind travels. So just in my head, and then I realized that's one of our teachings. Like things come back to you, all the little things, if you let it happen. I let it happen. So. I even post on Facebook to my friends, hey, it's first wind, They know what I mean now, first big rain, because our first thing is to complain about the rain, but I'm thankful because, another teaching is that they're all life givers. The wind signals a change, the rain brings life, and, one thing I remember my mom saying is my grandfather used to say, that even air, you don't have to do anything. You can walk down the road and breathe in, and you can be in prayer, because air is a life giver. Air is a life giver. And so I distinctly remember we used to share a mason jar of water. And I always wondered why we did that. And when I was old enough, I said, how come we're sharing the water? And but it's because water is a life giver, and we're sharing a prayer, so we shared that water. Now I'm kind of paranoid about germs, so I won't do it. But, but that was one of the things that I remember. Drink water, you could be in prayer. Today we have smudge, we have sage, tobacco, we've got different roots. You have, fungus, and did I say sweetgrass? And here on the Salish territory we use cedar, and our people come from a lot of teachings. We come from a people of disciplines, of rules of behavior, of how to be, something that society isn't aware of because they're taught. And new people that come here are taught about all the stats of unemployment, of dropout rate, our education rate, children being taken away, our so all of these things that are statistical, but they don't represent who we are. They don't tell the story of the reservation system, our land being taken away, the residential school system, and how that impacted our people. And how a government that's supposed to take care of us, is doing the opposite because of the land. Because once we build ourselves up and we learn our history and we get strong, we become a power. So it's one of the things I like to let people know is, it's okay to take your power. It's okay to be a voice. It's okay to use your voice. And it's really important to learn. And, so in the learning, it's not only academic, but academic is really important. I really encourage our families to help their kids. I'm trying to help my grandkids, right now, with their schoolwork and looking school positively. Because as a survivor, that was one of my triggers, was bringing my son to school on his first day. And I had no problems until we got to the school, and I looked up, and it looked like it was the same red brick color, as a residential school. And I stopped, and I said, okay, I let him go in, and just to talk to a teacher, And then I remember that there was a staff member outside, so I said, this is my son, he's in grade 1, and I let them take him in. I was, I didn't know that I was triggered. I just felt fear, and anxiety, and so I think that's, something that happens to, or other, some other survivors. It's hard to walk into institutions because it triggers. But what a great therapist told me was that some of our triggers we don't know what it is, because when we experience trauma, and especially if it happens over time, we go away, like part of us goes away because we can't deal with the reality of what's happening to us. So it goes into our bodies, so we don't have to think about it. We don't have to really feel it. So as we're growing, part of what anxiety attacks are, what he told me, I wish I could remember his name, but he told me that what happens is you put it away so you don't have to think about it. You don't have time to think about it. You have to live life. You've got to, live with, whether it's the family or the school. You have to keep going like everything is okay, because we're taught you don't tell, you don't talk, can't tell anybody. And then at the school, you can't be too happy, you can't have too much fun, you can't cry, you can't talk back, you can't stand up for yourself, So we learned that, what we have to say, we can't say it. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to get someone else in trouble, and, or we have our siblings to take care of. We don't want to worry them either, So we just really learn really well, just to keep quiet, and that we don't even have an opinion, because we were never asked for our opinion on things. It wasn't our choice to go there. It wasn't our parents' choice to go there. And it wasn't our parents' choice to have us go there, because the government, made that a law that our children had to go, or they're going to take the kids away. That was the threat. Whether it was a real threat, I don't know. I haven't researched that, but that was what a lot of our parents were told, was that they had to go to the school and to get an education, but it was an act of genocide. That's what our people need to know, that it was put there with intent, not for our people to get educated, but to take our own education away, and our language away, and our spirituality away, and our sense of who we are in the world, of the fact that, I'm Kat Norris, I'm Zukumawat, this is my mother, I'm proud of my mother, my father, these are their Indian names. A lot of these things we can't, even I struggle with, because we grew up urban. My sister, she, continued to live on the reserve in Nanu's Bay. She knows the names and the stories of, of everyone. So a lot of our people still have these gifts, but a lot of us don't. We have to learn it. In our language, I'm kind of going off what I was sharing, but when I do a lot of talks in schools, I don't get too heavy, but I just share. And a lot of times I'll ask the kids of all nations, how many of you guys have ever feel really nervous and you don't know why, and you feel anxious? And, it's like 6% of the kids from kindergarten on up will put their hands up, And so now my in Indian, Native, First Nations, Aboriginal, story of, being impacted by genocide, which those reservations and residential school are, is now helping kids of all nations. Because I'm someone who, I'm obviously, a person of color, and by introducing myself, I'm obviously First Nations, Indigenous, Aboriginal. I'm someone that just has a voice. I'm like them. I talk like they do, and I relate to them. And so just in doing that, I'm being an example for my people. And for a lot of my kids and a lot of the kids I work with in different schools, a lot of times there's only one or two. Some schools in East Van, there's lots. But I just hope that I'm, a good example for them, that you can talk, you can use your voices, you know. So it's something I just really pray for our people out there, you know, to listen to your children, you know. As a parent, we have a trouble with that, and as a grandparent, because we weren't listened to, you know, at the schools. And the big thing I want to share is I only went for 3 years. And, you know, in my mind when I was, you know, when people are talking about it, I didn't think I needed to tell, because I'm like, I went through sexual abuse at those schools. I went through physical violence at those schools. But I only went for 3 years, so I didn't think my story was as big as, you know, as other people that went for 6 years, 12 years. You know, a lot of my friends out there, you know, I raised my hands to you, and all of the people out there, you know, that went for longer, you know. But that 3 years impacted my life, impacted, you know, my sense of my color and who I am. You know, they called my hair horsehair, you know, and I had really thick hair. And and that was the one time my mom, you know, really, she actually came to the school. She was so mad that, you know, that my hair got cut. But I was already dealing with depression at the school. I remember that, you know, I was sweeping. And I must have been punished for something. I was the only one sweeping. Everyone else was playing. And I think that it felt like the nun just had it in for me that day. And my hair kept falling into my face, you know, because I'd already gone through the abuse, you know, by Father Lopsinger at the school. And so I remember sweeping, and my hair was, and I kept going like this. She was getting really annoyed and she told me to put my hair out of my face, so I did, you know, sweeping. And then finally I'm getting lifted up and put on a chair, and she chopped off my hair. And, you know, so I didn't know it at the time, but, you know, our hair is really important to us. And a lot of nations out there, we all have teachings of the importance of our hair. Our hair is, you know, a big part of our, you know, our identity, but it's also something you don't just let anybody comb your hair, you know. And even in the Salish culture, you know, like if it's your time of the month, you know, you don't touch the men's hair, you know. And so men also have rules, you know, of behavior. It's not only women, but, you know, and it's part of, when I started using my bun, I remember that it was, I guess it would be an acquaintance, you know, who started twirling my hair, you know, and he was being flirtatious, you know, where I was sitting in the front of a car coming home from a dance, and he started twirling my hair, you know, from the back, and, you know, I just really got tense, you know, and I didn't know, I wasn't thinking about the teachings, wasn't, you know, it just, so there's some kind of a trigger there for me. So it's why I started wearing, you know, my bun. And, but down south, my father's grandmother comes from down south in Washington, so there's a lot of strong teachings there as well. So I just really ask our people to live up for those teachings. So I was leading up to something, wasn't I? Now I forgot what that was, you know, about talking, being an example, finding your voice. But yeah, maybe I can ask if there's any questions out there.
Sure. Well, we had Gina Pearson introduce herself and just share that she's from the Chalneth Nation, and many generations of her nation were forced to attend the Alberni residential school, and that they were also forced to attend the day school, and the school district did not allow the people from her nation into the regular schools until the residential school closed in the 1970s.
Wow. Yeah, that brings up you know, another situation for what a lot of what are called Canadians don't know is, you know, that our people were segregated as well. You know, there were stores that we couldn't go to or restaurants we couldn't go to, and how we get served, even today, in a lot of communities, you know, isn't with great positiveness, you know. But, you know, when I wrote down, I brought notes, but I was typing all night, so and sharing things, but. One of the things I typed out was to don't look for approval. Look upon others with positivity and approval. Expect the best and always be your best. It's, one of our teachings is just always be your best. Walk like your best. And, because we're so, I know where I was going was, because we're so shut down, a lot of our people still feel that that's what they need to do. And when we walk down the road, I can see it, that, they don't know where to look, or they feel less than, But I really big part of my healing journey was, I took assertiveness training to learn how to stand up for myself. And it was at my mom's begging, because even though I was still kind of a little awkward, a little kind of shy, a little kind of backwards, what a lot of our people do is we stay quiet for so long. When something happens that it's just too much, we get angry, we yell, and so, my mom used to get, saw that, a few times, and she was getting worried about me, and, like, it was at a meat store, and I still go there today. We're fine now, but I remember, I think a lot of our people have this experience where they'll take someone else when we were there before they were, and a few times I didn't say anything, so finally I kind of yelled out, "What's wrong with you? Like, can't you see me? What, am I too brown for you?" So I was here before this person here, and so they would have to serve me, but it was also just to get me out of there, put my meat down, and here's your change, They might as well have said, "Well, get out now," But I was determined I'm going there again, and they're going, So I went there angry, and I was that, as a young native, I was that young native in my 20s that would get on the bus looking at everybody like, expecting they're going to treat me bad. They're going to look at me with like, there's a native, and then one day I was sitting at the back of the bus. I was going to, I think, Native Ed. And so there's a long line, nobody, standing there. I'm studying. And I see this Native girl just getting on the bus. And she's looking angry. She's looking at everybody like, And I was like, holy, what's wrong with her? And I'm like, oh, that's me, because I reacted to her like expecting people to look at her negatively, and expecting people to look at her with racism, And so I was like, I reacted negatively. I'm like, oh my gosh, so I'm calling this negative attention to myself, So that's why I wrote down my affirmation was, I look at people positively. I don't, because a lot of our people will, because of our experience, we look for approval. We look, are they going to look at me okay? But now I comfort people. I welcome people. I look upon people with approval. Because so many people of all nations have experienced trauma, not just our people. So we trigger each other, And so one of the best things that I did for myself, besides taking radio and television broadcasting, which I, was taking assertiveness training, and at any community center, if you have a leisure access card, you can pay half price, and they'll help you if you can't really afford it, or ask your community to bring someone in, to bring someone who can do that training, and it's so helpful because it really helped me to. You don't have to have a big voice. You don't have to say, "What's wrong with you?" You can just say, "Excuse me, is there a problem?" And one of the stories, I have ADD too, so I'm forgetting where I was. I'm going to share this one story about how assertiveness helped me. Again, on the bus, and all the little older Asian ladies, they sit on the front, and I sit down with my son now. I had a son, and he was about 3 years old, so he sat with me, and they were just looking at, and I was like, I'm thinking they're looking at me with racism. And so at the assertiveness class, they asked me, can you give us an example of of something that you're dealing with? So the meat store was one of them, and the little ladies just staring at us was another. It was always from the same culture. And so they give us exercises. So next time you go out, when this happens, you can choose to do one of two things. You can do a nod. You can ask ask a question. So I decided to finally ask a question. So we're sitting on the bus. They're all staring at my son, and I would look away. I would look back. When they see me looking, they look at my son. So I finally leaned over and I said, excuse me, is there a problem? And he said, oh, your son is so very pretty, I like his shoes, And I'm like, oh my gosh. All I had to do was just start talking nicely. If I got angry, of course they're going to get, annoyed. And then the second one was the meat store. They asked me, what do you do when you walk in? I said, well, I walk in and I look at the meat and I'm feeling a little insecure. And they said, well, realistically, they're running a business. So if someone's ready to go, they're going to take that person. Obviously, you're not quite ready yet. So what you're going to do is you're going to walk in. You're going to let them see you, hello. And use your voice, use your hands. And so I walked in, they looked over and I went like this, and they nodded. So I looked for what I wanted, and they said, watch who's there. So when the person before you is, getting theirs done, your eye contact with, And so this person paid, and I used my hands, and they said, oh yeah, can I help you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, just as easy as that. And then, yeah, can I, and just, be ready with what you want. So I'm just so thankful because with the assertiveness training, they also taught you relaxation. Don't assume what other people are, what are thinking. And even if they have assumptions about you, it's up to you to change it, So, I'm walking down the street nodding, I look at people. And one day I was on the bus, I saw a native girl, she was walking. And her head was like down, and she wasn't really looking at anybody. And there was a bunch of people walking towards her in this way. But she stood out because she was looking so down. And I was like, please look at me. I'm going to jump off the bus, And I was like, please look at me, please look at me, please look. And I was like just pulling her to look at me. And, she just happened to look up right at me. And I went like this. I smiled and she, I don't think she realized, and so that's what I practiced myself, Because of my experience, I also deal with depression. I went to get diagnosed, so something I like, would like for a lot of our people to do. Hopefully you get a good person. But I decided to get diagnosed because I get stuck in a lot of things, and I run late is one of my things. But I deal with chronic anxiety, so it takes me a while, to get out the door. It doesn't matter what I do, even through all my healing, I get kind of stuck and anxious, and I'll do something else, and I'll do this, But I don't know that it's anxiety. If I could just figure that out, that's my new thing that I need to work on, because I found my voice. I found my singing. I powwow dance and I teach powwow dancing. I get asked to speak at rallies. I organize rallies. I organize powwows. But there's things that in life that I get stuck on. So that's my next part of my journey. But what was I saying? I was saying what I wanted people to do.
Get diagnosed.
Oh, to get diagnosed, thank you. A good listener here. And I got diagnosed at Vancouver General because I live here in Vancouver. So I just asked my doctor. I said, I'm dealing with this stuff, and I'm getting stuck, and I want to know, is there a place where I can go? I didn't know how to say it. Like, I think I have depression. He said, I think so too. And I just want to know what it is, if it's something I can work on. So he, how do you say?
Prescribed?
Prescribed, yeah. And I think they made the appointment or called them. So then I got a call from, it took a while. Everything takes a while, just to let you guys know out there. Nothing ever happens like that. So I think I waited about 2 weeks and I got a phone call from the VGH Department of Psychiatry. I think it was assessments or something. And hold on. My mouth gets dry. And so again, with a lot of questions, but what they want to know is if they feel that you need to get assessed, so they ask you all these questions. So just answer the questions. Don't get upset. Because once you get upset, you don't really open up, So just keep breathing, answer the questions, and so there's we feel that you're the right fit, and that that I would need to come in, basically. I'm someone who could get help from them by being diagnosed. So I had my appointment, and they asked you all these questions, and so it was right there. She's reading all her notes and writing, and she goes, "Yes, Kathy, I'm going to be diagnosing you with chronic depression. There's another word, some kind of anxiety, but it's anxiety, or generalized anxiety, PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder." And I got really emotional because I was happy. Like, there's an answer for a lot of my ways of doing things, and it was like a big relief, to have a name to why I get stuck and why, if a older white fellow sits beside me on the bus, I don't really breathe, I still react, so for my adult friends out there and elders, even with all my healing and everything I've done, I still deal with a lot of triggers, but it's what I do with it. He's just some guy, and he's reading his book or doing his crossword puzzle, so I have to talk to myself, then I relax my body, and because one of the things that happens is if we don't take care of ourselves in that moment, we're still that victim, and perpetrators recognize victims, so I let it go and I relax and I just come into myself. Is there any other?
We did have a question from a webinar participant that asked how those painful lessons from the past are being taught or passed on to the new generations.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the things I did for my own family was I decided to let them know and be honest, and not without getting into a lot of detail, and I said, part of why I don't let you spend the night, at anyone's houses. I said, it's not to be mean. It's not because I don't want you to have fun, but it's just that I get so worried. I said, because of what happened to me and a lot of my family, a lot of our people at the residential schools and intergenerationally, because a lot of times the intergenerational survivors, meaning or intergenerational perpetrators, they were abused at the schools, so they go on to, it's kind of what and so if they haven't gone through healing, become abusers themselves. And so that's part of my story of 10 different abusers before I was 10 years old, and you know, including like older girls, and so I had a lot of trust issues, you know, and so I let them know, you know, I just let my sons know, and it's important for families to get together, you know, and talk about these things because it explains your own behavior as a parent, you know, or as a grandparent, you know, why things trigger you, why you get, you know, certain things anger you. It's not. So I let them know a lot of times when I get angry, I'm sorry, you know, because at the schools you don't get I'm sorry. You don't get, oh, well, I had a bad day and the priest was mad at me for this. You know, they're just anger, and it takes it out on the kids. So, you know, and like traditionally the teaching was, if you make a mistake, that's okay, let's fix it, let's, you know, but residential school teaching is, what's wrong with you? You're made to feel stupid. You're made to feel like you can't do anything right. That's why with the last one I put, I can and I will. I can and I will, you know. But it's just important to be transparent. If you're feeling depressed and you don't feel like cooking or something, you know, you have to put a name to it, put a feeling to it, and, you know, talk to even my grandchildren, you know, I keep them busy. I sign them up for programs. I find free programs, and I let them play. And my son is really great at that too. But when my kids were young, you know, I was kind of, I felt uncomfortable like at parks, you know, because it reminded me of my racist experience, you know, at schools. So kids laughing, and I was like, I get triggered by kids laughing, you know, because you know, it's not, I don't think that they're laughing at me, Count Norris, but they're laughing at my Indianness, or, you know. But anyway, this is like 30 years ago now, and but it took healing, you know, to just look at them, you know, and they're just having fun playing, you know. But I shared that with my son once. I said, yeah, I'm sorry that we, you know, a lot of times we left the parks too soon. You know, I was just feeling, you know, my own stuff, like, because I had to deal with racism when I was a kid. Kids would laugh at us and throw things at us and wait for us, and we had to walk past them, and Forrest Gump racism, you know, and, you know, being told I was ugly, and can't you wash that color off your skin? You know, all these horrible things. And so I said, I know that's not happening now, but that's just Mom, okay, I'm sorry. So helping him to understand. Otherwise he's going to hold it, but, you know, my mom, you know, like, if he's writing his little journal, like they write things at school, you know, we went to the park, but then my mom made us leave. You know, why? There's no, you know, I'm not as nice a mom as, you know, I could be. You know, so that's the biggest part to answer that question is, you know, but the only way you can actually properly share it is if you go through that healing journey, your own healing journey, and it helps you to let it out. So when you talk to your kids, you're not going to be crying and it'll stress them out, you know. So we don't want to take our kids on that stressful journey, that painful journey. We want to take them on our healing journey. This was then. This is what I'm doing now. You know, this is how I help myself. This is how I found my voice, you know, and, you know, and so this is what I'm trying to do now, so let's, you know, I see a lot of other cultures, whether they're Southeast Asian or Chinese families, Italian families, if the baby has to go to the hospital, they're all at the hospital. If they go to their doctor's appointment, you see the parents and the grandparents and auntie or whatever, they're all together, but our people, you know, because of the residential school experience, we're separated still, you know. But I think I mentioned that in the last webinar. There are a lot of families that are really together, and I raise my hands up to them too. When I see that, oh, you know, it's really awesome. And that's the one good thing about, like, there's pros and cons about the reservation system, you know. But one of the pros is that the families are together and, you know, do things together and have dinners together, you know. Yeah, did I answer her question? Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Oh. Good. So I better ask how long I have now.
So we can keep going for another 25 minutes.
Okay.
Um,
Did anyone out there on the webinar have a question?
or video conference, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. And if you wanted to go through your slides, Kat, they're here.
Oh,
You can
okay.
advance through the slides.
Oh, can they see that? Or,
Yeah, here.
I have a question.
okay.
Where you talked about assertive training,
Mhm.
how would you go about getting that? Is that to a counselor?
Yeah, you can, like if there's a community center or a neighborhood house in your area, I always, like even at my house right now, I have like Britannia's, how do you say the guide, or the program guide? So every like spring, every season, they have a new series of 8-week programs. And so Britannia, Raycam Community Center, Strathcona Community Center, Trout Lake Community Center, they come out with guides every new season. So I'm always picking them up, looking for the free programs, looking for, so it's in the community center and neighborhood houses, they will offer these programs. If they don't, you can ask for it. And, but also, if you can Google assertiveness training or assertiveness class in your area, you might find one. I'm not sure about the small communities, but a lot of counselors or Aboriginal, I don't even know what to call ourselves anymore, Indigenous people that have gone through counseling training, that's part of your training. I went to Native Ed's Family and Community Counseling course, and which translated to going to Langara College, and that at Native Ed that was part of our training, was assertiveness training. It was after I'd already gone through it, so it was nice to learn. But also you can Google on, I use Google a lot for my own healing, finding things. Also YouTube, you can look it up on YouTube, assertiveness training, assertiveness. Some are better than the others. If you don't like one, just find another one. One time I went through 4. I'm like, they just went on and on about, you know, and then I found one. I like ABC, you know, I like ABC. So YouTube, online, there are a lot of great things that you can print out and use. You can even train yourself so that you can help others as well. There are a lot of things I learned on YouTube that I use. I get asked, I don't never say I can't. So hey Kat, do you think you can? Yeah, I think I can. Then I, you know, and I did a workshop that way, and I did great, you know, because I used my own experience too. So yeah. So my healing journey, and how do we go to the next one?
This arrow here.
Yeah, I talked about my healing journey. The red road. When you hear the red road, that's used for a lot of people that that want to quit drinking and quit doing drugs, living life on the red road, and it's just red just sort of symbolizes, you know, our people, you know, like there's the brown people, which are known as Mexicans and Samoans. I like to say I'm brown, 4 shades of brown. And attachment, positive attachment versus negative attachment. I don't have my glasses, but that's one of the things that was taken away from us at the residential school level, because we were separated. You know, we were separated from my brothers, the same as many of our people, and some were even separated from their sisters, you know, based on age, and you know, so it impacted our, you know, natural attachment. You know, where before we could, you know, hug around and, you know, lay on each other, after there's a wall between us. And so, you know, that can still be brought back. You know, we started hugging probably when our kids were a bit young. We actually started hugging intentionally, because I read somewhere where you need human touch. Humans need touch, and people that aren't involved in relationships. I'm not saying to run out and get into a relationship, but people that are married and involved. There's just a lot of natural touching. Even just touching is healing. Good touch, and they tend to live longer lives and less stress. So this slide you can. I found this on the internet, so that's a good sign for you. Like what I said, you can find things on the internet. So it shows. That's a good slide, I think. So I'm going to ask you guys to look at that later. And yeah, so on traditionally our people lived a very close knit lifestyle where our kids felt safe. And one of the things that our people have a problem with is scheduling our lives and keeping our kids on a schedule. Because for me, I felt that I was being like residential school, regimenting their lives, so I couldn't do it. And even though my mom, like at 4 o'clock, we had to come in, have a bath, and get ready for dinner, and get ready for bed at 7 o'clock. That's what we used to have. Even when we grew up in California, actually, we moved away. Our mom moved us away to Vancouver. Then we moved to Los Angeles. And so in Los Angeles, that's what she would do. We stayed on that schedule, but we didn't realize it was just to keep us out of trouble as well. But it makes sense to get to bed early, and and now we know that people that don't get enough sleep, we have heart problems and headaches, and so my mom said, you have to put them on a schedule. They feel safer when they're on a schedule. So it wasn't until I went to Langara College I realized that importance. So I try to teach that to my son now. He has grandchildren. So when they're with grandma, they know they have a schedule. They have a bath. And so it's just, I'm going to ask you guys to look at that as well, to make your home a safe home. And my house, there's never anyone could smoke in my house, and obviously no drinking. So their friends were able to come to my house, because they knew I'd let the parents know, like, just to let you know that no one can smoke in my house, or no alcohol. And even my friends that are cranky friends, they're not allowed to come in my house. Keep it positive. So we always had a lot of kids in my house, when my sons were growing up, because it was safe for them. I created that, even though I wasn't feeling, I still felt insecure and that I'm not really safe. I created that for my children. And it's one of the things I like to share. I used to hear this. My grandfather died when I was young, but my mom used to say that he's still with you. He's still with you. That didn't mean anything. Like, I don't see him anywhere. You talk to him. I'm going to talk to air. So urban. Even though I grew up with the teachings when I was young. And then one day, I hope I didn't share this in my last one. I'm sharing it again, but my step grandmother that my grandmother died when I was quite young, and she was very loving. My step grandma. I'm going to name her name if that's okay. Clara Jimmy. And she used to give us money to go get ice cream, and she was very kind. And my siblings, biological grandma, and she was very well known in the big house and had a lot of teachings, and she really helped my sister. She passed away, and it was the 4 years later they had a memorial for her in the big house. I couldn't go because my son was really sick. He had the flu. So remember, I was holding my son. I was rocking. I was watching TV. And all of a sudden there was a shaking of the door, and the wind, whoosh. You'd hear the wind like whoosh, really loud, and I'm like, shook the window. It was like out of the blue. And I'm looking, it sounded like someone's coming in. you know. And so I looked. Oh, so I'm watching Corey. I wear my sunglasses at night. You know, there's a little rock concert on TV, and then I'm like, oh my god. So I put my son down. You know, I think that happened a few times. It really sounded like someone was trying to come in. So I got up and I walked to the door. Just as I touched the curtain, it went, whoo, and the window went flying out. It went down. Like, I didn't even touch the window. And these poor boys are walking by. They screamed, like, ah! There were 3 teenage boys. And we're all just looking at the window on the grass. And I said, are you guys okay? He said, yeah, are you okay? But the next day I was talking to my sister, and she asked me what time it happened, and I said that was at midnight, and that was when they were showing her picture. Mm-hmm. At that very time. Mm-hmm. So it just changed my everything about everything I was told about our ancestors walk with us. You talk to them. You know, they're always guiding you. If you think, oh, I should go, I better go take care of this, or I better go, you got to listen, With the Frank Paul, Frank Paul was a Micmac man who died by police hands, and for 5 years, 5 attempts at a inquiry into his name. I saw it on the news like everybody else. You guys can Google Frank Paul, Cat Norris, and there's a video of the police dragging him across he was soaking wet and he was unconscious, and dragging him across the police floor, and they put him into a paddy wagon, and they had I think 3 people in the paddy wagon, but he ended up, the paddy wagon, and drove them to Vancouver Detox, and the detox person in court said that, he took the first 2 guys, and then he looked at there's another person in there, and the detox staff said, what about that guy? And the constable said, no, he stays with me. And the next morning, someone that was jogging saw Frank Paul's body in the alley. So we believe that he was already dead. So just like everybody else, I was upset. I was pissed off at one of our own people being treated like that. So someone's got to do something. That's what I heard. Someone's got to do something. And then I realized I can do something. So I organized a rally, and it was in the days of faxing. I was phoning media with your fax number, faxing, and posting, like I think 40 posters all over East Van and downtown. And it was a big rally, and rallied every year for 10 years. But also it was organizations like the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. They listened, to that voice. And the Métis organization, United Native Nations, they did all the big work, I just was the noise, And so that's what I mean by listening, It's like, and, if you check on somebody, a lot of times when things happen, when you're dropping things and you're bumping into things, you're not listening. Someone needs to hear from you. You be like your grandmother, your granddaughter you haven't heard from in a while, or your auntie. Think about who you haven't talked to. You gotta keep up that connection, because we get sent messages saying, "Oh, trust no one." That's just what we learn to believe because of our experiences, and trust is a big thing to learn. And I'm, I didn't even trust women, because of my experience, and but now that the more healing I go through, and you look at people for who they are, like Davina, you're my good friend, and we've learned to talk and we get to know each other, and so I just let myself let go. You know, it's hard to say I can trust you, but let go of the stress about it, you know. But this is something you want to turn this around, you know, learn to trust people, but learn to listen to your instincts. And a big part of the I'll No More movement, it brought our people together again. And, you know, so we as a people, you know, we need to learn to rise. You know, rise up, stand up for your kids in school, but in a good way. Organize a meeting. Can we talk about this? You know, a lot of our people, even today, you walk into the school angry. We want to help my kid. This person is treating my kid like this. You know, I've learned to walk in. Hi, I'm so-and-so's mom or so-and-so's grandma. You know, I want to be able to, you know, help them. Like, how can I do it? And that's how part of how I ended up talking in schools. You know, sharing and singing songs. And, you know, so assertiveness helps you to do things in a good way, not angry way. But I'm going to read something before I run out of time. And you have to give me the 5-minute signal. I can talk for hours. So one of the things we talk about transforming, but we can transform how we feel about ourselves. We can even transform, like, because I live in the public eye, because I've organized events, you know, I trigger people, you know. And I remember there was one person that triggered me. Like, I was like, hey, everybody, how's it going? Make people laugh and joke around. And then there was a new girl that started hanging around. And she was louder and bigger and, you know. And I was like, I got triggered, you know. And I was like, you know, she stresses me out, you know. And then, but because I was the same, you know, there was like a little bit of a, you know, competitiveness and I didn't have words for it, you know. I'm just like, you know, she's getting kind of like a lot of attention, and she was like, oh, Kat's getting, you know, knows a lot of, you know, there was this natural weird, it's in our late 20s, so long time ago, not like yesterday. And, you know, so I realized I was old enough to, you know, to stop and think about, you know, her story, you know, like, I don't know what her story is, but like everybody has a story. And it was one of my new sayings, everyone has a story. So I start looking at her as someone who has a story. And so we happened to get to the center at the same time, and I go, hey, and she goes, hey, you know, and we just kind of hugged. It was kind of weird. It was like a signal, like, we're okay, you know. And we all have enemies out there, and, you know, and so one day with the one, again I think I was like mid-30s now. I'm like, this is getting too old now. There's no reason for it, really. So she was sitting with a group of friends, and I walked right up to her, and I said, hi. You know, we've never actually met. My name is, you know, Kat Norris. Oh, you know, because I realized what we don't know, we don't trust, and what we. And that was because a counselor told me. I said, why does this happen? He goes, well, a lot of times, you know, we can trigger people. You're triggering something in this person, and they don't know why. They either don't like you, or they don't trust you, or you're too much for them. There's something. And I said, yeah, because we've never talked. We've never been introduced, but there's just, you know, I'll say hi, and she's like, you know, like, then I get hurt, then I get angry. You know, so when I did that, that's all I had to do, you know. And so for the next few years, when we saw each other, you know, it was friendly. So that's, to me, part of what transformation is. You can transform other people based on how you see them and how you see yourself. When you accept yourself, yeah, I've had this experience, you know, but also if I've had this experience, I can deal with anything, you know, because part of our teaching is, you know, what happened in the past, you know, is meant for you to use for the future. You know, they say forgive. We all like, why am I supposed to forgive this person that hurt me, that person that made me feel ugly for the rest of my life, this person that abused me, you know. And I know I've shared that before, but it's really important for people to know that part of forgiveness is healing. And if I didn't get abused, if I didn't get, punched in the head, if I didn't get treated, very badly, I would, and if I didn't go through anxiety attacks, and learn about that, I wouldn't have taken family and community counseling course once I saw psychology, sociology. That taught me so much. And I wouldn't have gone on to Langara College, which they made me do because I thought I couldn't do it. My counselors made me go, drove me there. And education really opened up my worldview to even know what words like worldview means. Mm-hmm. I learned that it's not only our people that experience genocide, all these other cultures experience Euro-ethnic people, Polish people. So I started looking at everyone with their own story, Even people that are cranky and mean, I'm like, well, there's a reason for that. That's okay. It's not mine. Mm-hmm. So there's so much, and I think everyone out there knows that, our experiences, we could talk for weeks and still not be, go through everything that our people have experienced, And so I want to make sure to take time to honor our people that, that haven't gone through healing. And I was going to read this poem. But I have, how long do I have?
4 minutes.
4 minutes? Okay, I was going to read this poem, but I'm going to type it out so you can put it on add it to my webpage. It's called Larger Than Life. But instead, I promised I was going to read. Do you have reading glasses? Are those reading glasses? Okay. So I'm going to I promised to name names, and I asked my friends on Facebook for names, so I think I can take 4 minutes. Okay. So these are a list of residential school survivors, past and present. Sally Norris, she's co-salish and outreach worker, that's my mom. Evelyn Voyager, Lavina White, Lorinda Cito, Willie Abrahams, Kim Good, Lily Coulier, Esther Calder, Jackie Adams, Hope Castle and Peter Minabrerier, Victor Guerin, Sally Whitewing, her grandparents, Deborah Wilson, Elizabeth Grant, Janice Grant, Glenda Morrison, Beatrice Annie Gray, Lisa Grant, Mary Green, Ray Green, Johnny Peters, Abel Peters, Ted Francis, Marjorie Williams, Vernon Sr., went to St. Michael's, Gertie Pierre, Salem, Sam Bob, Jim Bob, Jeff Bob, my brothers, Lorna Bob, Louis Joseph, Ruth Alfred, Donna Dickinson, Elizabeth Bearshirt, Siska Nation, Rhoda Julian's mom, Peggy, Mike Etetiak, Morris Mason, Samson McKay, Michael Francis James, Myra Pierre, Harry Pierre, Karina Pierre, Leona McKay, Alan Linkletter, Muriel Pete, John Sam's mom, Florence Sands, Maria Hart, Johnny Perry's dad, Harriet Prince, Jean Aquash, Archibald McDonald, Alice, Anna Marie's mom, Alice, she was Celtic Nation, Zafira Joseph, Lejac, she went to Lejac, Roseanne McFarlane, Rita Lulia Meldrum, Esther Calder, Teresa Manyguns, Kyle Desjardins, Evelyn Edwards from Penalicut, Philomena Joseph, Wayne Charlie, Ray Tony Charlie, Pearl Harris, Ray Tony Charlie's late mother went to Cooper as well. Pearl Harris, she lists the Thomas family from Stenamo. There's Pearl, she's a principal now. Delia, transportation manager. Irene, receptionist. Alice, retired custodian. Ruth, finance manager for Musqueam First Nation. Rita is a retired teacher. Lorelei A. James, lists her dad, Ralph James. Deborah Hayward, Charlie Morrison, Carol August, Ron Martin. And so each one also listed, because I was asked for success stories. And so I asked my friends to list, their names. And so what I had wanted to do was list their names, what they do now. But because I waited till the last minute, I just listed their names. And I know there are other names out there, but it's something that I wanted to do to honor my friends, because I get asked to do so many things now because I found my voice, and because of my ongoing experience with healing. I'm still healing. I still have triggers, but I just take time to relax myself. I'll smudge, I'll pray, and a cold shower is really important. So, yeah. Can they still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for listening, everybody. I really appreciate your being with me today on this healing journey that we're all on. So keep up your hard work, find your voice, stay strong, be strong. But if you can't be strong, talk to somebody.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you so much for rushing here to get here today, and for all of the wisdom that you shared, and for sharing those names and reminding us of how many people are out there still today, still on their healing journeys, and for holding them up and for holding us up today.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone today for joining us, for your patience, for hanging in here a little bit later than we normally go so that we could have this extra time to hear from Kat today.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Learning Circle team who help us with the technical setup, and the First Nations Health Authority that funds our program and helps us get connected with communities by video conference. And we have one more session coming up later in May. On May 30th, we'll have a session on dollars and cents, financial preparation for post-secondary education. So if you work with students or young people, if you yourself are interested in learning more about post-secondary education, please join us on May 30th. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Have a good day.
And if you're still there, I'm going to sing. Okay. I don't have a drum, but I created this song. So it's for people that want to get help, and the lower parts are the elders say, lot limit, you have it in yourself. So am I too close? I think I might be too close. Okay. Help me drum. Everybody out there, drum with your hands. Thank you.